Next slide. So I'll just go through the agenda. We've got the evacuation procedure, which I think we're all aware of now. But we have got a visitor this evening. If we haven't got a planned alarm, so if the alarm does sound, exit by your nearest exit, and we'll do our air hostess bit, and Alison will lead us outside and take the roll call out. We'll pack away car park and make sure we're all right. So then, if please don't leave though till we make sure everyone's accounted for. We know what's happening. Otherwise, we'll send someone in here to look for you. Okay, I have apologies for absence. Members away on council business. I've got apologies from Councillor Simpson and substitute Councillor Bell. So welcome, Councillor Bell. Thank you for coming to Resources. And we have apologies from Councillor Taylor, and we have substitute Hayden Phillips. So welcome, Hayden. Any other apologies? I don't think so. Okay, any disposable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in tonight's agenda?
Oh, yeah, I had a non-pecuniary item 11D, which is doing some funding towards the CCTV, just because I'm on the town council.
Okay. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you for that. And agenda item number 4, public participation. As always, we're overrun. This is people's favourite board. And then we move forward to the minutes of the Resources Board held on the 11th of November in our agenda. So we can sign a copy. Page 6, page 7, page 8. Any comments or queries? I'm happy to move those from the chair by the second. Councillor Davey, thank you, and then I can sign those off for Democratic Services. Wonderful. So that takes us on straight away to agenda item 6 for the internal audit progress report. So we've got Richard here with us. So Hello, welcome. Do you want to sort of talk a little bit about the report at all? Let's say thank you. I think it's a really good report. I'll let you take us through that.
Before I pick up on the actual report itself, one of the things I'll pick up from the covering report Alison's done is about the wanting to join the partnership, and we had a partnership board last week, and 5 minutes later on the nod. So North Warwickshire that's from the 1st of April will be a partner of the Central Midlands Audit Partnership. So that's brilliant, and we look forward to working more closely with you than we have been at the moment.
That's good news. Thank you for that. Thank you for that update. So we're part of that organisation now. That's brilliant.
Just to run through the report, I'll take it bit by bit, and if anyone's got any questions at any point, please stop me. Main thing for this progress report is to actually update you on where we are with the audit plan. As you can see there, there's a progress on audit assignments and the various statuses. There's been a number that have been postponed, mainly due to the fact that the management have got far too much on at the moment, and it's difficult. And the last thing you want is an audit cutting across things as well. Certainly around information governance, where the monitoring officer has only been in post a few months, and so we don't really want to try to do new things anyway and improve things. And nothing worse than having an audit come along and tell you things you already know. But what we'd rather do is work with them and help where we can. We have started parts of it, but I'll go on to that in a minute. The key thing really is that the majority of the brought forward audits have been finalised. Got a couple that's at the draft report stage. Again, that's just down to pressures of work on management to get responses through to us so we can just sign it all off. But they shouldn't take too long. That's the risk management one and the counter fraud one. Just to update you briefly on the status of some of them moved on since I put this report together. Capital programme audit, there's a closing meeting tomorrow, I believe, with Alison and the auditor to go through that one. So hopefully that should be an agreed final report in the next couple of days. The Hackney Carriages and private hire vehicle licensing audit, that's almost, as according to the auditor, at draft stage. He's aiming to get the draft report and working papers to me by close of play on Wednesday for review, and then that draft report will be issued hopefully by the end of the week. Just pick up on the data protection audits. One we've started having a look at is something that came out of some of the audits that the audit has been doing around privacy notices. So we decided to start that bit of the audit because it doesn't really impact on any of the staff at North Warwickshire. So what the audit is doing is actually comparing the North Warwickshire privacy notices with those throughout the CMAP partnership and having a look and seeing, are North Warwickshire's fit for purpose? Are they missing any? And that type of thing. And it says early indications are that the existing privacy notices are in need of improving. So that's something we'll be working on. So that's again. He's looking at the areas to actually put together the areas that need improving. So hopefully something will come out on that by the end. I think probably by the end of February, you'll finish that bit. And just a quick update as well on follow-up audits. There's a couple that he hasn't had any responses for, but I'll pick up that bit when we get through to the recommendation part of this report. You can see I mentioned there the plan changes, the equality, diversity, inclusion one we've postponed for the time being, and hopefully we're resuming that next month. I've mentioned about the information governance and data quality audits, and the follow-up of the progress being made on the implementation of recommendations around the procurement audit, especially with the new procurement regulations coming into effect on the 24th of February. Undecided yet. We'll have a word with Alison how we play that, whether we do follow those up, whether we look to bring a new audit in the 25/6 plan, to look at how the authority has put its processes in place for the new procurement acts. So we can have a look at that then. So that's two ways of playing that, and I'll discuss that with Alison to see which is the best way forward.
Yes.
Audit coverage. You can see from the audit coverage pages. 4 audits have been finalised. Homelessness was given a substantial assurance rating. 1 low recommendation in that has already been implemented. Governance and business continuity and disaster recovery both limited, and fly tipping has come out as reasonable. And there's a synopsis of each of the reports below, just explaining what the weaknesses were, what the risk rating is that we've attached to that, and what the action status is for each of those recommendations. Then we move on to the actual recommendations themselves. See, there's quite a few that are still outstanding. A lot of coming on income collection leisure centres. It was an audit we did last summer. That's now due. See that action due. So we need to get some feedback on that. That's something we'll be working on. But what we've done here is highlight all of those what we call critical, significant, or moderate risk recommendations that have passed their original date, and give committee an update on all of those. What the original weakness was, what the recommendation was, what management's original response was, and what they've responded to us since the action date has passed. Anything that's action due means it's a recommendation where we haven't had a response to at all, and it's past its action due, its target implementation date. Delayed future action are those where we've had a revised action date and we haven't got to that yet, but it has passed its original action date. And then there's the other one, delayed action due, where we've had a revised action date and now we've got past that action date as well. So again, we're chasing up on action dates to be moved forward on that. Life will become easier when North Warwickshire joins the partnership, as we've got an audit management system that we rolled out to key officers so they can actually track the recommendations themselves.
And they can now allocate them, can't they, to resource then, and then they're given a target date, and that then pings them, doesn't it? So that
they'll get an email come through, and what they also could do there is they can actually type in their responses to it. So it's just getting it organised. Again, we do that via Alison as to the best way and who needs access to the system. Because what we tend to find is it's a long process because you've got to give people. So Alison, for example, as Section 151 officer, would have access to all the recommendations for North Warwickshire. Another director would have access to their specific ones. The chief exec, for example, again would have access to all of them. So it's actually setting it all up to get the right people access. But once we've done that, we're trying it at the moment on a couple of the partners, and they're finding it very useful. The one thing I would say as an auditor, the disappointing thing is you'd expect an audit management system that you'd know who'd actually updated the recommendations, but there's no audit trails.
Design.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that the developers have put something in a future release on that. But so we go out to people and say, oh, you've amended this. Well, I've not done that. So then I think, who else could have done it?
Yeah.
So which is a bit of a.
Or maybe in the interim, they can have to write their name or their initials at the very least with their comments.
That helps. So, yeah, so.
I've just got a question then, I think, from Martin in relation to that. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, yes, please. Thank you, Jay. It was in relation to where we've got the risk rating, where the audit. So, I'm looking at the corporate governance.
Yeah.
And there was some in there that say significant risk, and yet their original audit date seems to be after some of the lower risk ones. And it just seemed a bit odd to me that I thought you'd have addressed significant risks first, and then more moderate risks afterwards, and I can't quite work out.
Yes.
I couldn't see it in the lower table whether the dates have changed, whereas I could see some others where dates have changed.
What happens with these is that we discuss them in management, and management come back to us and they say these are the dates, these are our target dates for implementation. We don't set the dates, they do. But what we always say to the resources board is if you feel that those dates are not correct or you would like to challenge them, then please do so, and we'll talk to management about them. We do get quite a few where committees will go, oh, 12 months, that's far too long. When you've got an IT system in and you're trying to do recommendations for IT systems, 2 to 3 years sometimes is.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some other partners that have been outstanding after 3 or 4 years because they can't get the developer to put this enhancement in the next release. So it's.
And there are costs associated with that,
Yes.
but I think within reason, I don't know whether or not you sort of saw it as there was a bit of a rule of thumb, if you liked, for want of a better phrase, to say if it's a significant risk, we want to see progress within 3 to 6 months and it not be continuing. And if it's moderate to low risk, obviously that can be for, depending on the work involved. And if that's listed with the rationale for the date, I think that's understood then if it requires a system development or something else more significant and the resource implications of that. We understand that. But sometimes if there's a significant risk, so for example, I think so governance training for us here, that's probably something we could do fairly quickly. We could put an additional date in and have something organised for us as a board. We could have an additional date where we all got together and had some governance training. I think that'd probably be quite valuable. So we can liaise with Alison on some of those and we can speak to the team.
Can I just say, so with the governance audit, for example, there are some of the low risk ones really easy. So getting putting the annual governance statement on the website, it was really easy. So that's why I put the date really
Quick
early.
wins.
And that has been done. But so like the training, although that's a significant risk that needs to be done, because we need to update the code of corporate governance, we need to update the financial regulations and those sort of things. Sort of thought that training would probably be better after we'd updated those, so we could include all of that in the training. But
It's just the rationale
I
that's
see your point.
significant. You think, oh, that must be serious, so we want to get that done quickly.
I mean, if there was a significant risk on like a financial control or something, then I think it's Section 151 officer, I would be saying, look, we need to do that straight away. But although that's a significant risk, it's a significant risk, but not in terms of how we operate and getting financial controls and things.
It's just more the principle of seeing that. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Well, I was going to pick up on the same thing. I've been here since 2010, and there's people over there who've been here longer. we've got the policy I've lost it now, for governance training. We obviously haven't thought it was needed to be done for possibly, and I'm looking at Councillor Hayden Phillips here, it's probably 2 decades since we've done any training on that, maybe. And the other one that I find that item 8, it's not clear which board is responsible for governance. I find that a strange sort of significant risk.
Well, that also came up in the peer review, didn't it, about what sits in executive board and what sits in resources board, and that actually that poses a bigger question for us actually to sort of unpick, if you like, about what we put where. So yeah, so things like that are important to us. I think we understand what parts we're responsible for, and then at what points it hands off to executive. But it needs to be clear, I think. And one of the challenges is whether or not we needed an audit committee as well as a resources board. You know, so there's some questions for us to tackle when we look at governance as an administration and as an organisation, I think.
Could I just add to great report? I mean, it's great to finally see the actions and actually break down of the detail. So that's positive. So
Yeah.
It's that almost becoming consciously incompetent, like, isn't it? That you where you got problems before you can fix them. So a lot of information.
Yeah, I would say the same thing actually. Sometimes one of the things you want is, and people always think, okay, it needs to come out with a good result. That's always lovely and favourable. But actually, if it highlights things to you that you can learn from and put in place, then it's valuable to you. So this is what we've been looking for. And so I'm really pleased that we're finally sort of getting there and making the progress. And I think we'll make even more progress now that we've adopted being part of that organisation as well and actually taken that decision last board. So great. Is there anything else you'd like to go through on there?
Well, what I was going to say on governance was that Tip for Solace have now just decided to bring out another consultation document around governance principles. So that should be interesting. That's going to delay a few things or change a few things, I would imagine.
Thank you. Well, question from Councillor Barr.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was related to what you were saying previously about, as long as we are seeing action on some of these things, then, it's generally considered acceptable. But there are a bunch of stuff which are significantly overdue without any kind of update. It's mainly, I think, the incomplete young leisure centres where some of those actions were due in September and we've still not got anything. Not even to say, yeah, we're working on it and here's a revised date. I just wondered if there's anything we can do to give that a nudge.
Yes, I think there is. I think we can sort of say from here that, we're awaiting an update. It says we're awaiting an update, we're awaiting an update. And actually, we'd like to see in our next meeting what that update is, and what progress has been made. And almost to understand what the reason for not being able to update has been.
We
Because
have sent out chaser emails, Chair.
Is that because of, sorry, just thinking out loud, is that because of a change in personnel?
It probably is because of that, because the audit would have been done prior to the change in personnel, so it probably is, and also there's a lot of work being done in the leisure project, so we just need to chase them up. I think that's a fair comment to do that.
Thank you. Okay, well, Councillor Clues, you.
No, I was.
Oh, you were indicating that. Thank you. So if there aren't any more questions on that, is anyone happy to propose? Councillor Humphreys, and we're all supportive of that being noticed. Thank you. Show of hands. That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I think you're well deserved. You go and get your dinner.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And we'll see you again soon. Agenda item 7 then for us. General Fund and Housing Revenue Account Capital Programme for 25-26, 27-28. So our task tonight is that we approve the recommendation to approve the schemes detailed in Appendix A and the 3-year General Fund Capital Programme, and to approve the HRA Capital Programme as detailed in Appendix B. So are there any questions on that one? I've got anything on this. No, you can have a quick look.
The chair, can I just
Councillor Watson.
So on the appendix B, you've got fire doors there, which shows 600k next year, there's 612, there's 6. I thought we'd already spent, I thought it was about 1.4 million, and we'd already spent about 800k, or so
Yeah.
should those next years be gone, or?
Yes, thank you for picking that up. The chair also picked that up. There's 600,000 in 25-26 needs to stay.
Yeah.
We've spent about 800,000 in this year, I think.
In the process of, yes.
So the 612 and the 624 need to come out. The councillor has got ideas of where she can spend that.
Although that will be, I mean, there will be ongoing maintenance of fire doors, because there always will be.
But
it won't be at that level.
No.
No, we're hoping not at that level, but obviously it's assuming people don't need as many replacing, but or that legislation changes either. So, you know, building regs often been, but I think that would have been a reasonable programme to have gone through. But yeah, there's always a lot of call on that account, as you can see. You know, regular maintenance, insulation is probably one of the areas we'd look to invest more in, because obviously it makes our properties, talked to Angela earlier, if it makes our properties warmer and makes bills lesser and more efficient housing, then that's better for our tenants, and it supports our programme of being a good landlord as well. Any other questions on that one? Have no hands, so if that's okay, I'll move that from the chair. Have a second. Councillor Clues. Moving on to agenda item B. Housing revenue account, estimates and the 30-year business plan, rent review of fees and charges. Obviously, there's a recommendation A to G here, which include the increased rent for 25-26 in line with the social rent policy set by the government at 2.7%. Are there any questions on any of the reports or any of those recommendations? Councillor Watson.
The 2.7, when was that set, and when is it due for review? Because that was set when it was quite low, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so the government rent policy is you take the CPI, September CPI, and add 1%. September 24 CPI was 1.7%. So we added the 1% on to get to 2.7.
Obviously, it's significantly higher and not likely to be coming down anytime soon. So when do we reset that 2.7? Is it next year?
Next year.
And that will be based on last September.
That'd be
plus
September 25, it'll be based on.
25
Plus
CPI
1%.
plus 1%, yeah.
And it's based on September, and the rent changes go out for April.
Thank you.
September was the lowest month.
I was gonna, that's why I called it, 'cause it seems quite low,
Yes.
you know,
And it
based
is,
on.
it is a challenge, because, you know, you've got 2.7 coming in, but all your expenditure areas are going up.
Yeah.
And so that account is always very, very tight, but on that basis. Any questions? Any other comments? Do I have a proposal for that? Councillor Clues, and second. Councillor Humphreys, thank you. All in favour? That's carried. Against? Oh, you voted in both, then,
Yes,
Councillor
I should have abstained, sorry. I was on automatic.
I think it was still carried.
So I don't think it affected the result.
I don't think it affected the result.
So I
yeah.
apologise for that, yeah, sorry.
Agenda item 9, council tax and non-domestic rates outstanding debt. So this report was asked for over the last couple of meetings that we've had when we've talked about outstanding debts. And as you can see from it's for noting at this board tonight, but as you can see from Appendix A, you can see that there's, if you ignore 2024, because that's our current council tax rate year, significant debts going back to 2009. But actually it breaks that down to what sits in what year and what builds up our total debt, and if it's in this list, it's deemed collectible. Are there any questions or any comments on that? Councillor Clues.
Yes, Chair, just one. But how long is it collectible? I mean, 2009. This has been on since, well, I've been here 12 years, I think, so it's just, you know. to me, it's non-collectible, but
Yeah.
Do you want to come back on that, Alison?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, and we didn't do, when we had COVID, we stopped doing recovery like everybody did, and we took quite a long time to get back up and running. We are back up and running now. We sort of November 23 we started to ramp it back up. We are back up and running now, and we're going back in debt. And I agree. I mean, the older it is, the more difficult it is to collect it. And even if we write it off, if it's then deemed collectible, we can write it back on. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But I suppose we're still going through that filtering exercise at the moment.
Yeah, and it was what was asked for to see and give this picture. So thank you for that. Councillor Humphreys, then Councillor Watson.
Alison, I was going to say, that's over 10% of our normal collect, isn't it? Don't we get around about 10 million on the normal council tax?
Well, we only get to keep like 10% of it. But our debit rate, I'm not sure what our debit rate is in total. I think it's as much as 7 million, is it? I'm not sure. I'd have to check. Don't
Alright.
give you false information.
You have the budget. I mean, I'm just looking at the way this grows. This graph is definitely increasing exponentially. What is the normal, how do we budget normally? Because obviously we're always going to get some people that aren't going to pay. But the 1.27 million, I mean, it seems a significant loss.
So our collection rate is, we budget at 98% collection rate on council tax. So effectively, we don't think we're going to collect 2% of it. We also have a bad debt provision, but we actively recover and go to court, etc. As I say, we did have quite a backlog, but we've caught up now. We're playing catch up. We've just started to see the impact of the catch up on our collection rates. But that's what we budget for, 98% collection.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bell, and then Councillor Watson. Sorry, missed her hand.
yeah, if I'm reading this right, the debt started to mount up during COVID, which is probably understandable. But I'm reading this as something I've not seen this before. It looks like we got into the habit of not paying council tax because since then it's got worse and worse. Is that it? Am I reading this right? Because it's much worse than it used to be.
It'll always be worse in the most recent years because we've had less time to recover it, if that makes sense, or not written it off.
Okay. Well, let me answer the question then rather than the comment. So has it been worse since COVID?
It was, but that was also, it was because of COVID, but it was also because we didn't do any recovery. So it takes you a while to get back up. So our collection rate was lower than it had been. I mean, what we've been used to actually, I mean, this is the first time we've sort of produced this really. So it could be that we need to give you some more information, some more contextual information, would be if we give you the actual collection rate that we achieved. Each year, that would probably be quite useful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or are achieving, you're implying that, we still, so from 2020 onwards, we're still probably going to collect quite a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, because the more recent the debt is, the more easier it is to collect.
Yeah.
The older it gets, the more difficult it is.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of questions. First one, and apologies for this. On the domestic council tax that we've not collected, it goes up. So 2009, if you look at December 2023, it's 29,119. Then in December 24, it's 29,167. I wouldn't expect it. I expected it to move kind of in more recent times or the current year. In previous years, it just doesn't seem to make sense that it would go up from the previous year on a debt that's that old. That's my first one.
Yeah.
And the second one, on the non-domestic rates, I presume that's because of insolvency and things like that. Where are we as a council on that list of when a company goes into insolvency on the payment list? Because I would have expected us to be quite high up. I know HMRC are always generally at the top, but I would expect us to be quite high up
No, we're not. We're not. I'm not quite sure where we are on it, but we're not high up on it. In terms of your first question, where it's gone up is probably just where we may have summoned somebody, or we may have sent it to a bailiff or something like that. So that's where it's gone up. I mean, it's not much. It's gone up. So I think the amount would be where we've just added some fees onto
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So, thank you.
Councillor Barnett, then Councillor Clues.
Thank you. I think there's definitely benefit to having this as a kind of semi-regular update if we can get these things in future. I think I'd also like a bit more insight into what the process is as well. I mean, two of the things that stood out to me, and I may have interpreted this wrong, but there's a line on there. This is I'm looking at page 57 at the moment, which is the numbers of cases at different stages. And if you look at the line which is at the bill stage, which I assume means we billed them but not followed it up, there's a significant number of those which, and you know, even
395.
quite a few going back a number of years. I mean, there's 30 from 2018 where we sent them a bill, assuming I'm reading that correctly, and never followed it up at all, which that doesn't seem right.
I'm not sure that it means that. I would need to clarify.
Yeah, maybe I'm misreading it.
Yeah, because obviously the one down below it is bailiff.
Well, and that was
Which
the
is
other one I was going to
significant.
clarify is, well, because those numbers are rather worrying. I mean, that's in 2023, the number of open cases was 778 with the bailiffs. And I did query with Alison earlier what the total number was, including those that had been resolved, and that was just over 1,000. But, and again, maybe I'm misunderstanding what the status means, but that seems to be roughly 5% of our households would have to involve a bailiff, which seems rather extreme to me. So I think I'd like a bit more insight into what the process is.
Yeah, and a little bit of context of what that number is in terms of what proportion of council taxpayers it is. How many, what proportion of our council tax base are we having to write a second letter to? How many are we, at which stage of the process? And then how many we take, how many out of that declining group who are not paying are we then?
At what point do we get the money back?
Yeah. And to get to our 2% target that we're, well, not target, but allowance almost, that we're accepting or expecting not to recover.
But generally, I think it's good to have this insight.
I think it's
definitely
really helpful.
we should have it, updated periodically, and a bit more if we can get some more on the process, that would be appreciated.
Councillor Clues.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Alison, I know we said about COVID and we fell behind. I mean, COVID's 3 years ago. But can I just ask the question now that our recovery team are 100% back up and running for any debts we've got coming in now or from last year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you have your hand up there, Councillor Bell?
No.
Oh, I had one question, and it was a bit in relation to process, so indulge me just for a second. There's quite a campaign from someone, from Martin Lewis, isn't there, about council taxes recovery being incredibly harsh, and when people then get the bailiffs and things like that, that at the point at which they owe debt, we then pull any chance of direct debit and things like that, and they owe all the sum. Is that correct in this? Because I wasn't certain that was how we operated in this authority, but I wanted to double check.
No, our recovery process has got various stages to it. So we would have gone through quite a few stages before we actually get to the stage where we summons people to court. And then it would go to court, and then quite often there's an arrangement set up at that stage. So that might happen, but very unusual for that to happen. That'd be a last resort.
Okay, thank you. Any other points on that? Okay, well, thank you for that piece of information. I know that it was asked for by Councillor Simpson and some others about that, so it's really helpful to understand how our debt is formed, if we like. That's really useful. So that was just for noting. Moving on to agenda item 10, our task this evening as board is to recommend that the debts detailed in A and B are approved for write-off. So there's total irrecoverable non-domestic rate debt of 11,199 and total irrecoverable debt, council tax debt of 25,912. So looking at what we've just seen, I'm presuming that comes off of those totals and deemed to be not collectible anymore. Are there any comments on agenda item 10? Councillor Barnett.
Just one question. I think I've got a feeling I might have asked this before, but forgotten the answer. On the council tax write-offs, one of the codes is NFA. Can you just clarify what that means?
I think it's no forward and address.
Thank you.
And because this has changed ever so slightly to how it used to be presented, before we would have the individual, because obviously it's not in P&C, so we haven't got names and things. Would it be that that NFA is the same person from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and that's the sum of their debt? Or are they individuals?
It could be. I don't know without having the detail in front of me, but it could be that it's the same person. It might not be.
Because that might be quite useful here, because obviously we've got total number of authorised requests. There's 17 individual requests, but actually, in context, it'd be quite useful to know if that was 5 people, 4 people, or 1 person. And because when we've written off before, we've seen that actually, when we're writing off debt, they owe for many years. Would that be, or is that just me?
No.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on this one?
I know we just create no forward address. I take it insolvency, the people who've gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
Which is because it's, okay.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just looking at 4.1 and it's got here that there are 3 separate accounts. 3 separate accounts, 2 for insolvency and 1 not be traced. So yeah, that the
missed
one
that.
addresses, yes, it was so did I.
Thank you, it's there. Brilliant, thank you. If there are no further questions, do I have a proposer? It's always the most unpleasant task. Nobody actually wants to propose it right off.
I'll propose it.
Councillor Humphries, thank you very much. And a second? Councillor Barnett, thank you very much. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 11, general fund reserves for the resources board remaining for 24-25 and forecast for 25-26 estimates of fees and charges. Any questions in relation to this item? Oh, this is the one that you've declared an interest in terms of the CCTV and PFD, isn't it? Okay. Obviously, this is in there in case we don't get UKSPF funding for the continuation of that role. And it does feel like that's less likely, and so it's prudent to put that in so that that can continue. Any comments or any questions on this one? If not, then I'll propose that from the chair. Do I have a second? Councillor Davey, thank you very much. All in favour? Thank you. And against? Abstentions? That was carried because I didn't have a vote. Thank you. £20. We're moving on to agenda item 12, which is the general fund revenue budget, resources board recharges. The recommendation tonight is to approve the forecast outturn position for 24 and 25, and to approve the estimates as presented, and to approve a supplementary estimate of 124,000 for legal costs in the current year to fund the commitments to date, and also put in 70,000 for next year. Those figures are included in the figures presented. So do I have any questions on that? Silence. Comments? If no comments or questions, I'll move that from the chair. Do I have a second? Councillor Davey, thank you very much. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3. And against? Abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. And moving on to agenda item 13, which is the tenant partnership agreement. So those that are part of the housing task and finish group will have seen this. Is there any comments or any questions in relation to it? Do you want to say anything about that? Councillor Clues, as Chair of Housing?
Through you, Chair, I think it's a really good thing that we've got with the housing tenancy team. I mean, we attended a meeting with them, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So we plan to meet with them every 6 months. I believe they meet monthly. It's a good group. One of them's just gone through a new, what's it, fence. And when I went up to Manchester for the conference built there, and we was telling some people about what we do here, and some of the other councils was like, you know, one actually admitted that it didn't work for them. They didn't like kind of any interference from any housing tenants or anything. But you know, it is a good thing when the ombudsman and then, you know, they kind of like it, because I do think our tenants should have some say in what was on. You know, and they're all volunteers. You know, they all turn out at meetings through the day and this meeting at night. I think it works really well.
Thank you. No, I would agree, and I think they're quite a group actually, and we're trying to encourage broader participation from across the borough actually, not less.
Yes, we'd like some from the outer boroughs, you know, the outer parishes really, because the ones that come, I think, from Mansetta, Badgley, Artsall, and yeah, so you know, it's getting on to come. But as I say, it is travelling. You know, I think we do help with that. So it is a really good group that we've got that, and you know, they put some work into it themselves, the same as we do. So it's working really well. So I'd like to move it, Chair.
Any comments on that, Angela?
No, just that the regulators often doing a webinar for one organisation or another, and I listened to a representative from the regulator today, and they emphasised again how important it is to have tenants engaged. Obviously there's different roles, isn't there, but tenants engaged and that their voice is heard, and I think this shows that we're committed to that, which is a good thing.
Well, I've had a proposal. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Stewart. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very, very much. Moving on to agenda item 14, which is the exclusion of the press and the public. I'll just read this bit while we stop recording or whatever we do. Recommendation to the board to consider in accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act, whether it is in the public interest that the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they may involve likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by Schedule 12A to the Act. Got a proposer? Going to P&C, Councillor Humphreys, and a second. Councillor Clues, all in favour? Thank you. As we're overrun the public, we can just get on with agenda item 15.